Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Laura Sturm.
All right, welcome back to our presidential candidacy series. We're here with Dan Gaudreau. Dan, welcome to the episode.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Josh. I appreciate it very much.
All right, so I guess we'll get started. We just got a kind of series of questions I'm going to ask you, and then we'll kind of spin off on some of those as we go. But basically, if you just want to kind of tell everybody who you are, what inspired you to run for president, and I guess what you think your qualifications and experiences are that would make you the best candidate for the job. Kind of a long-winded question, but we'll start with that.
Dan Gaudreau. I'm a longtime member of USA Powerlifting. I was a member of USA Powerlifting when it was American Drug-Free Powerlifting Association. So over 25 years or so being part of the organization. My occupation, I'm a general contractor, Class A general contractor in Colorado, and I'm a master electrician in Colorado. So I've had business experience being self-employed and running businesses for over 35 years. Something that I think I can bring to the presidency. Now, why would I want to run for president? Well, I've been part of this organization for, again, a number of years, and I feel it's time that I might have to step up and help the organization go to its next phase. 7 years ago, I was nominated for the presidency, and I, at that time, did not accept the nomination because I didn't feel that I had enough information or experience in the higher level of the organization to fill that role. Since that time, I've been part of the EC for 4 years, and I feel that 4 years was probably maybe the most volatile period of USA Powerlifting's existence, going through COVID, the battles we had with the IPF, the various legal issues that we came across during that period. It was quite a time to be part of the executive committee. So another reason that I feel that I wanted to run for president is a number of years ago at Las Vegas, President Maley, spoke of what attributes his successor would have to have. And he listed things, and I really felt at that time that he was speaking directly to me. I'm somebody that has looked at legal aspects of things, and we'll go over that a little bit later when we talk about various aspects of what I've done with USA Powerlifting. But to know legal ramifications of what's going on, to know what the business ramifications of what's going on. And if I go through some of my experience, you'll see that I have had chances to see USA Powerlifting at every level. To start out, my background, I'm an athlete first. That's how I joined. I ended up being a 16-time world champion in the Masters category, 30-plus national championships, both in the Open and Masters category. I'm an international Category 1 referee. I'm an international level coach. I've been a meet director. I've held 4 world championships, including the Open World Championship as a meet director, and I've done dozens of national championships, of course, state and local championships I've run. I've been the state chair of Colorado. I served for over 5 terms as the state chair in Colorado. I've also expanded outside of USA Powerlifting. I put on the national championship, youth national championship for USA weightlifting. I've put on strongman competitions. And I've attended powerlifting competitions on every continent in the world other than Antarctica. So I've been to probably 100 competitions and been all over the world, and I know the players in most of the world in powerlifting. Again, as I said, I was an EC member for 4 years. I was the coaching committee chair. I was the Masters committee chair. I was the international committee chair. I was the founder of the coaching certification program that you've been doing such a great job with, Josh. I was the person that brought Safe Sport to USA Powerlifting. I started Youth Nationals about 10 years ago, and I held Youth Nationals for the first 2 years to get that off the ground. And Youth Nationals has been going strong ever since. I started the championship committee to make sure that we had a high level of national championships throughout the organization. I served on the IPF Athletes Commission, and I was brought in to address the IPF Congress during the Congress in Norway over our IOC WADA drug testing parameter issues that we had with the IPF. So, somebody might say, well, he's just an old timer. He's been there for 25 years. And I don't really try to grasp and hold on to the past. I'm somebody that tries to look to improve the organization. And I think I am a forward thinker, as some of those items that I just went over might show.
Cool. I appreciate it. All right. So moving right along here, we're just going to kind of keep it moving.
Yeah.
So question number 2, can you briefly explain Brother Bennett's philosophy and how you feel that philosophy fits in today's powerlifting world?
Well, Brother Bennett, Larry Maley, President Maley was a direct link to Brother Bennett. He actually interfaced with Brother Bennett, and we have been lucky to have him over the course of these years, that he could have then transferred what he learned from Brother Bennett to us. Brother Bennett's philosophy was just having a drug-free, clean, and level platform for all athletes in powerlifting, and I'm sure he hoped that would expand out to other sports as need be. So we have lived that philosophy in USA Powerlifting, and that's really what set us apart from other organizations. One of the main things we do in USA Powerlifting is we drug test. We drug test at every level, and that's unheard of in powerlifting and other sports around the country. I've been involved in a lot of other sports, and I've never seen drug testing like what occurs at USA Powerlifting, testing at every level and testing at a high percentage, a relatively high percentage. So when Brother Bennett first came up with his philosophy of that, he didn't have the issues that we have today with the politics of drug testing, which we now see and which we've been part of with the IPF, and also the WADA trying to monopolize drug testing. So that is a concern, because it's really been taking away from what his vision was that we would all be able to just compete on a level playing field. We've got other organizations that pay lip service to drug testing. They say they're a drug tested organization. But, recently I just looked over some of the numbers, and I was just at high school nationals in Milwaukee, and they did over 76, I believe, drug tests just at that one competition. And I looked at the 2024.
Who's they? Just for clarification, who's they? USA Powerlifting.
USA Powerlifting just did, yeah. But it was done by third-party testing, PwC, which we do for our national championships. So USA Powerlifting just did 75 to 78 drug tests at that competition. And if we look at what the USA did with their affiliate, their IPF affiliate last year, they only did 50 some odd drug tests, the whole organization. So that just shows the difference of what USA Powerlifting, following Brother Bennett's philosophy, how we're implementing it compared to how other organizations, quote unquote, are drug testing. It's nowhere near the same level.
All right. Question number 3. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing USA Powerlifting today, and how would you address them if elected?
Well, there's a number of challenges that USA Powerlifting is facing today, and probably the number one that I feel is competition. The history of business is filled with companies that thought they were untouchable and became complacent and didn't move with the times, didn't actually, quote unquote, compete, and ended up at the wayside. You can talk about companies like, let's say, Kodak or IBM or a number of companies that thought they were just beyond anyone touching them at some point. So we have to be careful that we just don't feel that we're just beyond that and we're just going to sit there and let other competitors come after us. And those competitors are just going to try to kill us by 1,000 cuts. They're just going to try to take every little bit away, nibble every bit away that they can. And we have to be proactive in that. We have to go to battle and compete with these other organizations. And that's probably number one. But how are we going to compete with the other organizations? Obviously, the phony association in the US has what they feel is a trump card of having international affiliation. So what I say is that we have to then move to become more media friendly, have a larger media presence, and be able to eventually get a sponsor, a mainstream sponsor, to sign on with our organization. We can't just keep fighting over the same 5 powerlifting sponsors and expect to move forward. So we're going to have to take action. We're going to have to be proactive and get out. And, something like what you're doing right here would have been probably unheard of 5 years ago, to have this sort of media footprint with the presidential election coming up in USA Powerlifting. So we have to take that to the next level. We've been doing a good job. We get out there, but we also have to let people know what our message is. And just as we talked about what Brother Bennett's philosophy is, how that still affects USA Powerlifting and how we're head and shoulders above anybody else. When I think of going to high school nationals, my son just lifted in high school nationals, and my son was just drug tested at high school nationals, which I applaud that he was. He won his division and he was tested. That's what we're all about. That's why we're there. And I just can't understand how a parent could want their kid to go to a high school national championship in another organization. And if they had the knowledge and knew that that might not be drug tested at all, or there might be 2 drug tests that occur at that whole national championship, why would they want to be part of that? So with that message getting out there a little more prevalently, I don't see how a sponsor would want to stay away from us. They would want to be part of that.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Question number 4. How do you plan to grow the sport and improve the experience for both new and veteran lifters at all levels, from local all the way through international?
Well, we'll start at the local level. I would first implore every state chair to either A, add 1 more meet to their schedule in probably a geographic area that they haven't looked at, or B, enlist a new meet director. I think just that, getting into areas that we're not in, competing in areas that we haven't previously been in, is going to be very important. We want to, just like I expounded on earlier, we want to raise the media exposure and our local, national, international meets. We have a lot of great personalities out there, and we got to capitalize on that. And a little blurb on Instagram sometimes doesn't capture how great some of these athletes are. We have to spend a little more time and invest in our athletes. In turn, we invest with our athletes. That's going to, again, fuel more sponsorship, I believe. One thing I want to do if I become president is part of that higher media profile that I'm looking to do is, we have a YouTube channel already with USA Powerlifting, and I want to have content on that YouTube channel where we're having meet recaps with, we'll have personalities on, we'll have interviews, we'll have live interviews from the competitions that then we'll show, we'll disseminate what happened at these competitions, and we'll make personalities out of our athletes. We'll make media stars out of our athletes. And by doing that, we'll end up getting hundreds of thousands and hopefully into the millions of views. And that's what's going to attract our mainstream sponsors. Once we start with that, we'll have something that no other powerlifting organization has I'm foreseeing and I'm visualizing something that's on par with recap shows for the NBA, recap shows for sports, golf, etc., where we'll spend 10, 15 minutes with people in the know in powerlifting and go over what recently happened, for instance, at high school nationals, what happened at collegiate nationals, who are the people to look for at open nationals, raw nationals. And then also we'll have powerlifting news where we'll go over what's happening in USA Powerlifting. And we can use that as a way of communication to every one of our athletes all across the nation. USA Powerlifting, one of the knocks on USA Powerlifting is that people feel when they go from the local level to the national level, that all of a sudden things become more business-like, we would say, or stricter, which of course it might be, but not as friendly to the lifter. So I would have a concerted effort to look at some of the aspects that we're getting some of that feedback back from the lifters. What are the concerns and how can we address those? So when somebody comes in to a national championship for the first time, they're not met with somebody that's talking to them like they should know what they're doing in every aspect of this. We should be encouraging those lifters and pulling them up to that level. One of the things I want to do is I want to move the national office to Colorado Springs, Colorado. And that's not just for my benefit if I was president to be close to me, but there's a wide-ranging benefit for being in that city, which I've found from being in Colorado. We have the U.S. Olympic Committee's headquarters, one of their headquarters, Olympic Committee and Paralympic Committee in Colorado Springs. The National Strength and Conditioning Association world headquarters in Colorado Springs. Various NGBs that I've had to go to help me in certain aspects, especially when I was addressing the International Congress on Drug Testing. I referred to people in USA Basketball, USA Hockey, etc. USA Weightlifting is in Colorado Springs. USA Association of Blind Athletes is in Colorado Springs. State Games Association. All these people are there, and one company that's down there, the El Pomar Foundation, would probably subsidize us to come to Colorado Springs. So for us to be there and to be able to interface with all these other sports outlets is just going to be a great thing for USA Powerlifting, great thing for the athletes to raise us all back up. I want to get back to being involved with the state games. I was the director of powerlifting for the Rocky Mountain State Games for 17 years. And my wife and I were awarded the Sport Commissioner of the Year at one point. And I think partnerships like that are going to be important to increasing our grassroots. This all starts at the grassroots. We have elite athletes, but we really have to encourage the grassroots and build that from the base up.
All right. Question number 5. USA Powerlifting has faced various controversies, challenges, and policy changes over the years. How would you address those?
One word that comes to mind is communication and how we can improve communication. It's been a problem for years. When I was a state chair, I don't think I ever heard from anybody at the national office unless there was an issue. As president, I want to be in communication with the state chairs, and I want to be in communication often with the state chairs. I want to know what they're doing in their state, not to try to oversee them so much, but to try to help, to try to give a hand. How can somebody in a neighboring state perhaps help you in some regard? If you've got a geographic area that's out of your reach, is there somebody closer by that's maybe in another state that could help? So, and also that media outlet. I think one of the visions I have is to have a media outlet that would also provide news to the rank and file members of USA Powerlifting. All those will help with the communication aspect that we need to have improved. That's one major area that I see improvement, and that improvement is going to help us grow the sport.
Okay, number 6 here. if you are elected as the next USA Powerlifting president, what would success look like at the end of your first term? I guess what key accomplishments would you hope to achieve?
First, as I probably said maybe a couple too many times, but to raise the media exposure. That to me is the key to everything moving forward in the organization. We have to be somebody that a sponsor could look at and say, this is somebody we want to invest in. And that comes with just plain and simple media exposure. We have personalities. We have to have those personalities seen by people. More people that see those personalities, now we can get a sponsor and say, listen, we've got X amount of views for this production we put on. We've got X amount of views for that production we put on. And now it's time to get a mainstream sponsor. And that will just snowball into something that then we can then put proceeds into our national championships. And one of the things I'd like to see happen is that our national championship is on a level above what the quote unquote competitors' world championships are. So, one of the things I say to people is we're coming up on the NBA championship right now. That's the National Basketball Association. And everybody's looking to that championship and thinking, well, that's going to be the best basketball team in the world. And I don't think anybody's going to question that at that point. So the National Basketball Association is the premier basketball event in the world. There's no question of it. And if anybody did question it, I would say, who was the last FIBA basketball champion in 2023? Who was the champion? What country? And you'd be hard pressed to have anybody answer that question. So I envision USA Powerlifting to be that same thing, that our national championship is the premier, and we'll have people from international countries coming to our national championship. It won't be just for our people residents in our country, but they'll come to win that national championship. I'm involved in other sports such as motocross racing and supercross. I did that. You can't tell looking at me now, but I did that when I was younger, and I'm still a fan of that. And the best from all over the world come to the U.S. to race in supercross, and they've made their supercross a world championship where people are running over in Spain and Italy and such, and they do have a world championship there, but everyone in the world knows who the supercross champion is in the AMA, in the super motocross world championship. Everyone knows who those are in that sport, where they might be hard pressed to know who the MX2 champion is in Europe. So that would be another thing that if we could start going to that direction, 3 years. Could we do it in 3 years? I would at least like to see in 3 years that I have a major mainstream sponsor that signed on to USA Powerlifting.
Cool. I have a hypothetical question for you here. Let's say you're competing at the IDFPA World Championships and you're currently in third place. Your third deadlift will put you in first place. What song are you listening to?
Well, what song would I listen to? It would be Metallica. Yeah. It would probably be Metallica. My wife would say Thunderstruck, and that's probably the only reason I wouldn't say Thunderstruck, because she took it. But I would say one of the Metallica, For Who the Bell Tolls, or something from Metallica. That's something that would get me going when I walked out.
Yeah, I had to throw that in there. It has a rock component to it. Cool. All right. So kind of going back to your candidacy, like, I guess in your own words, if you're trying to sell me on why, or sell, the membership as a whole that doesn't know who to vote for, like, in your own words, how would you present your case, just in your own words? Anything that we left out question wise or whatever, open floor, there's no rules here.
Well, again, I would ask people not to hold my experience and my age against me. One thing that I do have available to me at this time in my life is that I would make the presidency a full-time job. I'm not going to be somebody that's going to do this part-time. And I would like to see that anybody else could say that. this will be a full-time job for me, and I can't see how running a multi-million-dollar company could be anything less than that. There's times that I've come through and there things that people had worked on for years and they couldn't get it done. And I'll use the coaching certification program as an example. I joined the coaching committee. I saw that we were working on that coaching certification process. People talked to me about it. And I just saw that they're just spinning their wheels on it. Eventually, all those players, in 2 years, all those players kind of just faded away. And then I was enlisted to be head of the coaching committee. I said, the first thing I want to do is get the certification process going. And they said, go ahead, you got free rein to do it. And within 1 year, I did it. So for 6-7 years, people were talking about doing it. And within 1 year, I made that happen. When I brought Safe Sport to USA Powerlifting, people were asking me, what is that? What is it about? People didn't even know what Safe Sport was when I brought that to USA Powerlifting. And I'm proud that that's part of USA Powerlifting because we've found people in USA Powerlifting that shouldn't have been there and shouldn't have been coaching people or involved with young people. So I'm really proud to bring that to USA Powerlifting when nobody even knew what it was. So that is an example of my forward thinking. And I think what you're seeing in some of my conversation now is I have that forward thinking. Just because I've been here for 20 plus years doesn't mean I can't brush that aside and think about moving forward. However, the experience does allow me to not make the same mistakes that have been made in the past. And I've seen a number of them. And back to the coaching certification, they gave that to someone else and we ended up having a lawsuit over it because of something that I specifically didn't want to have done. And this person, when they took over the program, did it, and we ended up getting sued over it. So I'm somebody that knows how to look at what legal ramifications could be of some of the things. And that's why I didn't, not to beat around the bush, but I didn't want to have a USA Powerlifting written manual on coaching. I wanted to use a text that had already been published so that we wouldn't have legal exposure. And then somebody else wanted to have it because they wanted their name on it. And then we ended up paying dearly for that.
Okay. I want to circle back to you said that if you would treat the presidency as a full-time job. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
That means that will be my first priority. It will be my full-time job. I'm semi-retired from my job. I have people now that can run my construction and electrical. So I don't need to be there. I will put full-time hours on USA Powerlifting presidency. I don't see how at this point we can have this kind of organization and have somebody doing it as a part-time job. I just don't see how that's possible. For us to go out and get that sponsorship that we're looking to get, that mainstream sponsorship, it can't be a job that we're just doing 20 hours a week, 15 hours a week, etc. So I'm in the position, I don't know what anybody else's position is, but I'm in the position that I can give that 40 hours a week plus. I can travel over the country. I have my own business. Nobody's going to tell me I have to be somewhere at a certain time. So if I have to travel somewhere for USA Powerlifting business, I can do it.
Okay. So if people want to reach out to you with questions, is that something you're open to? And I guess if so, how can they contact you, and or do you have any like social media presence or anything like that you want to, I guess, throw out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook under my name, Dan Gaudreau. If they wanted to message me on Facebook, they could do so. Or I'll give you my email, rmlcco@yahoo.com. They can email me at any time if they had questions. I'd be glad to answer it. One thing I want to do as president is to be accessible to the members. I mean, obviously, I can't find out where your jacket order is if you order something from the e-store right away. And obviously the president probably shouldn't do that. But if you have issues, I do want to hear about it. And I had a relationship with the president, Larry Maley, that I felt that I could call him at any time. And within a reasonable amount of time, he would get back to me and answer that question or talk to me about what my concern is. So I want to be that same type of person. I want to be accessible to the members, and I want them to know where I'm coming from. And you will see a media presence from the president, from different people in the organization if I do become president.
Those are my questions. Do you have anything you want to add or compliments for me?
Compliments? Yeah. Like I said, I'm really happy that you're doing this. You've always been somebody that has been able to take the initiative, and you've been a forward thinker, and you're somebody that I count as a forward thinker. So I would definitely be conferring with you as if I do get to that job. I'll definitely be talking to you. When I look and see some other organizations have prime time, I just shake my head and I said, that was Josh Roars. What are they doing? Why are they taking that away from him? So I thank you for all you've done.
Well, I appreciate it. And yeah, I appreciate everything you've done. I mean, I think you listed not everything that you've done, but the list is quite extensive. And I do appreciate, your years of service to USA Powerlifting, and appreciate you joining us on the podcast, and good luck at the election in June.
Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.